Am I the asshole for refusing to give my SIL my Paris vacation? I, 32F, met my husband, Connor, 33M, in Paris 11 years ago. We kept in touch and eventually found ourselves both living in a big city in America and began dating since we met in Paris. We go once a year, usually in September. It isn't really an exclusively romantic thing, so we have gone with friends or family on a few of these trips. It's just something we like to do together, but we don't mind sharing it too. My SIL, Charlie, 30F, and her fiancé, Mike, 31F, asked if they could come this year. SIL and Mike do not have a ton of extra funds. Maybe one trip every couple years. Connor and I are able to take between 4–5 a year thanks to flexible work schedules and funds. About 2 months ago, Charlie and Mike decided they want to get married next month in a small ceremony instead of planning a big wedding. I have been putting an itinerary together for the trip, lots of first time in Paris stuff that we haven't done in a long time or ever, so no problem for us. I use a Google Sheet and just share it with the people who are traveling with us. Many of our trips are group trips. I shared with them when we first booked and have been making casual updates until 2 weeks ago when Mike reached out. He called me to tell me that he has decided that this trip will be their honeymoon. I thought it was a little weird but understood that they can't really afford multiple trips. Here is where things began to unravel. SIL doesn't want to go on her honeymoon with other people, so she called us and asked us to reschedule our trip so we are not there at the same time. We said no to that but said we can do our own thing. I copied the Google Sheet I had made and began working on the new one. Additionally, I separated the flight itineraries so they could control their own, cancelled the extra room I had reserved on my credit card, etc. Over the last few weeks, I have continued with our plans. I have made reservations and such for just my husband and me. A couple of days ago I got a call from my SIL asking if I had made any other plans because the spreadsheet hadn't been updated. I said that I had been making plans but just for Connor and me since we were taking separate trips. Apparently, they didn't realize that we were going to keep the arrangements we made for ourselves and expected them to make their own. They thought we would replan everything and continue planning their trip. SIL is pissed that she lost out on the hotel rate I had, wants my room now, and the tickets for attractions I got for the times that we had planned. She is demanding we give her these things because we were being spiteful when we didn't explicitly tell them we would no longer be planning their trip. I thought them telling us they wanted to be alone on their honeymoon and us agreeing to this made it clear. Mill said I should just give it to her since we go every year. I contend that I never offered to be their personal travel agent. And #X200B. ETA. My SIL and fiancé had been dodging our phone calls after they said they wanted us to move our trip dates. They were annoyed that we wouldn't, so I sent her the following text after multiple attempts to contact them. Me. I am going to go ahead and make any and all changes so we can avoid each other on the trip if that is what you want. SIL. That's fine. Me. Okay, I will just make the changes and update the spreadsheet for you. SIL. Okay. ETA. The above exchange was a follow-up to the phone call in which we explained that we would separate the flights and try to transfer the hotel reservation to them. This was the same call in which they told us they wanted us to change our trip. Not the asshole. Your SIL is stunningly selfish and self-absorbed, and I'm laughing at how clueless she is. They invited themselves along on your holiday, then decided it should be just for them and you should bow out? But you must plan it all for them? And they will not communicate with you effectively about this but still be outraged when they don't get what they want. What happens to some people when they decide to get married? It's a perplexing phenomenon where they truly think the world starts to revolve around them. It does not. Let Mill pay for them if she feels the need to butt in. Not the asshole. They sound super entitled. Not the asshole. Don't do it. Don't set that precedent. Not the asshole. She wanted to her own thing, she got what she wanted. It's not your problem if she didn't make any plans beyond that point. And, you are correct, you aren't her travel agent. You don't owe her anything. Am I the asshole for agreeing with my boyfriend when he said he didn't help enough with our baby? I, 24F, and my boyfriend, 25 male, recently had a baby together. A little background before I get into it. I am a stay-at-home mom and he works full-time. Hours are normally 12 hours a day MF and 6–8 hours on Saturday. This is both of ours first time being a parent, so we are figuring it out as we go basically. Last week he expressed to me that he doesn't feel like he helps enough, and to his surprise I agreed. I knew getting into our relationship that I would be a stay-at-home mom. His mom was one and he loved it. Not to mention his working hours, so I knew that it would be hard, just not this hard. Basically I take the baby all day and night since he works. He only takes the baby for about 20 minutes to an hour when he gets home, and he helps clean the baby's bottles every other day. Sometimes on his day off he will take the baby so I can sleep in for 2 hours. But that's all the help I get. I told him during this arrangement that he doesn't give me a break. Plain and simple. He got defensive about how he's the one who has the financial burden, and I agree it can't be a good feeling wondering if you can feed your family. But he makes a good $9K every 2 weeks, so it's not like we are drowning. Anyways, he asked me why I didn't think he was helping, and I told him that I do the cooking, cleaning, laundry, most of the bottles, bath time, overnights, and during the day. I get a 20 minutes to an hour break when I'm eating supper after he's done with his meal. He claimed that he can't hear the baby crying at night, which I think is crazy because the baby screams bloody murder most of the time. So I told him that was bullshit since he wakes up on the ring of his alarm. I don't know if I'm in the wrong here. I get what I said probably hurt his feelings, but he doesn't help. He told if I feel that way then I need to ask for help. I told him I shouldn't have to ask for him to help with his baby. If the baby is hungry he should be able to feed it. If the diaper needs changed he should be able to change it, etc. Edit. I would like to thank everyone for commenting, but I would also like to address a few things. 1. My boyfriend is blue collar, so me going back to work wouldn't magically mean he works less, it just means we would both have crazy hours since my prior job required me to be on call a lot and some stranger would be raising our son. He also loves his job, and if he had the option I don't think he's cut down on hours anyways. 2. Some of you were concerned with my age and not being able to support myself if things go bad. Prior to having my son I was a social worker, so I could always go back. 3. I wouldn't consider us rich by any means, but I think that's mainly because $8K of his monthly income goes back into his work supplies. Oxygen and acetylene tanks, rods, FR clothing, ECT. 4. I have thought about getting his opinion on hiring help, but I do have trust issues due to my prior work experience and even some personal experience with child abuse, neglect, things like that. So that's on me for sure. 5. I never meant to make him feel like a deadbeat. I know he loves our son with everything in him, it's just the lack of help. I do agree I could have worded things better though. 6. I do not sit all day and just watch my baby sleep, that's for sure. He does get hot meals when he comes home, and I do pack his lunch for him since I know if he did it himself he'd make PB and JS lol. Distracting a baby for 20 minutes isn't parenting. Currently you are living parallel lives, not together. You need to start living as a family. Hire help with some of $18,000 he makes a month. You're working at home, he works 60+ hours a week. Just hire someone a few hours a week for a break. Not the asshole. He wanted your affirmation that the lack of parental effort was okay. However, it sounds like both of you are in the early throes of it all and everyone is exhausted. If you have friends or family who can, ask for help. He knows the baby is a person, right? He needs to be spending some time for bonding, in any case. With that amount of work, he will get burnt out at work faster. He can cut back on his hours if needed. Emo. Not the asshole. He is the parent of the baby, of course. He should know to change the diaper when diaper needs changing instead of waiting for you to do it if he's around. If baby is hungry, he can totally feed the baby too. If he insists on those hours, can't cut back, time to invest some of those $$ into hired help around the house for you. Am I the asshole for telling my 30F husband, 35M, that I don't want to sell the house to save his dog? Update. Vet says cancer. We are running further tests and will know more in a few days. If we do a radical mastectomy it would cost between 5–9K. This would also be her third surgery in 6 months. Then it would be chemo, which is 2–4X a week. This would give us 2 months to at the very most 1 year with her. The average being 6 months. I not only think it's cruel for her to spend her last days sick and miserable, we also don't have the $10–15+ to spend. We've spoken a bit. He is more understanding of the need to maybe have to keep her comfortable until the time comes, but even if she passes he wants to sell the house because it will just remind him of her. Please no sharing the post. Hello. As the title says, my husband adopted a female husky on a whim before we met. He never researched the breed or anything about dogs. He refused to spay her because, as he says, she wouldn't be a real husky and would lose her personality, which we all know isn't true. She is now 8 years old. Side note. The house our family lives in is his, purchased before me. And he lost his job in June and employment insurance hasn't come in. My salary covers house expenses but we now have $0 into a bank. In the past year we have spent a total of $8,000 of our emergency savings on emergency vet bills for her. 1. He gave her a bone covered in fat and she was hospitalized for pancreatitis. 2. She had a mammary tumor that was thankfully benign, so surgery to remove the mass. 3. She had a phantom pregnancy a few months ago, so another trip to vet for tests where I finally convinced him to spay her. 4. The spaying. 5. Now, 3 weeks after spaying, she has a large mass on another tit, it's very bad and leaking red. Vet says cancer, we are doing more tests. Since we are living paycheck to paycheck, his solution to pay for her vet bills, multiple tumor removals, chemotherapy etc. is to sell his car. I have my own that I use every day for work. And then the house that our children and I live in. He needs my okay to sell as we are married and it is registered as a family residence. He says he refuses to let his dog die over a tumor. He has a very unhealthy attachment to his dog. She basically replaced his dad after his dad's passing 8 years ago. He says she's the only thing he had after the passing. I have animals of my own and I understand not wanting to let them go and doing everything for them, which I have done. But I think this is excessive and I think everyone needs a limit where they say I'm not going to put myself in crippling debt and be homeless for this. He obviously thinks I am an asshole for not being okay with the house and car being sold and thinks I'm even more of an asshole because I financially can't and don't want to put myself in huge amounts of debt for the dog, when we are already struggling on one income. So I ask everyone, am I the asshole? Note. I will address a few questions. I refer to her as his dog because he made it clear it is his dog and I have no say in the way he raises her or medical decisions. I had mentioned multiple times to spay her and to get insurance. Both times he would get mad and say it's none of my business. I care for the dog a lot, She only eats when I feed her for WTV reason, etc. Regarding employment, if he gets a part-time job he loses employment benefits, so that doesn't make sense as employment benefits bring in more money. They haven't come in yet. Not the asshole. Your husband doesn't realize it, but he is slowly sacrificing his family for his dog. It is not anymore, the family making some sacrifices, but really sacrificing the family. Also, your husband probably needs some mental help. Man, my dog is my baby, but I wouldn't let the poor baby suffer because of my selfish reasons. Your man needs therapy. Not the asshole. Your husband is romanticizing pet ownership and not facing the realities. This poor dog can't have endless surgeries. What's the prognosis? Even if he sells the car, how will he take the dog to its 5,000 vet appointments? Not the asshole. Even if the dog would make it, I doubt she's got more than 2 years of life left in her. Most likely, she's got a few more months. Either way, a house is a huge investment. I do sympathize with your husband though, he's clearly in significant grief, and not processing this very well. It won't be any better in a few months even if you were to sell the house. I think the discussion to have is not just the monetary aspect of things, but what is best for the dog. I doubt more surgeries is the answer. Not the asshole. Your husband isn't considering the pain it will bring the other members of his family. He is in a tough situation, but he will need the car when he gets job eventually. The husky might not even live very long with all the treatment. It's a risky move to potentially prolong the dog's life. What will you do if there is another financial emergency this year and your drastic options have already been used?